بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Again, باب ما يفسد الصوم. So today we continue on with the book of fasting, Kitab al-Siyam, the second chapter, which is the things that invalidate the fasting. So fasad is basically the opposite of the deed being able to be accepted. If you have something invalidated from the pillars of the deed, it won't be accepted. So he's going to talk about the Imam rahimahullah after talking about Ramadan and who's obligated to fast in Ramadan and who are the people that are exempt. Now he's talking about the things that actually break the fast. And fasad is like, there's two types: fasad hukmi and fasad haqiqi. Hukmi is basically the spiritual type of corruption. So invalidates your fast, not completely technically, like your fast is still correct, but it invalidates the reward of it by, for example, backbiting or lying or cheating or using foul language or wasting your time and stuff like that. And this is something more in the chapters or the studies of tazkiyah and purification of the heart and purification of the nafs that the scholars focus on. That's the hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, "من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة أن يدع طعامه أو شرابه." That for those who do not leave their, saying foul language or using bad words or something like that, or doing bad deeds, Allah is not in need of his leaving the drink and the food, right? So that's the fasad hukmi. The fasad haqiqi is basically these things that we're going to talk about right now, which actually literally breaks your fast and you have to make it up. So he starts off: من أكل أو شرب أو استعطى أو أوصل إلى جوفه شيئا من أي موضع كان أو استقاء أو استمنى أو قبل أو لمس فأمنى أو أمذى أو حجم أو احتجم عمدا ذاكرا لصومه فسد. So he said that whoever, he's going to lay out basically the general things that break the fast, and then he's going to go into a little bit more detail. So whoever eats or drinks or takes anything into his stomach through his nostrils, through his nose, or anything through any other route into his body that provides nutrition, or intentionally vomits or masturbates or kisses or touches the opposite sex and with subsequent ejaculation, or has hijama, the bloodletting, the cupping. If he does any of these intentionally, he has nullified his fast. His fast is invalid and he has to make it up. Akala or shariba, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيْنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ ثُمَّ أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. To eat and drink until the whiteness of the day becomes distinct from the blackness of the night, and then complete the fast until nighttime. Right, so this is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As soon as Fajr comes in, until the sun is actually set, you have to complete the fast. If a person, fast or eats something after the adhan of Fajr intentionally, his fast is broken. If he does it unintentionally, most scholars say it's still broken. You have to wake it up. You have to make it up. But if, for example, you had woken up in the night, you didn't know it was Fajr or not, and you thought it was not Fajr and you ate something, you went back to sleep, then you woke up and it was Fajr, the scholars say that in that sense it's acceptable. We'll talk about it more. Also, for example, even if you think that the day is over and you break your fast and you find out the sun hasn't completely set, you have to make that fast up as well. Anything that's food or substance or nutritional, and some scholars they say as well, anything even non-nutritional, if it enters into the jawf intentionally, you swallow it, like some people they smoke cigarettes and it goes into the jawf, or some people they do snuff through the nose and it comes into the jawf, it breaks the fast, right? Through any other route, the scholars they say for medical reasons, sometimes they put in the IV to provide nutrition and stuff like that. In that sense, the scholars say if it's nutritional, it will break the fast. If it's not nutritional, then it doesn't break the fast. That's the opinion of the Fiqh Council of the Organization of Islamic Countries. All the different Muslims, muftis around the world, they get together and they discuss these modern issues. So their opinion is that if it's nutritious, then it will break the fast. But if it's non-nutritious, it doesn't go to the stomach or provide nutrients to the body, then it doesn't break the fast. Like if you had to put medicine in or something like that. If you intentionally vomit, that will break the fast. The Prophet ﷺ said, "من درعه القيء فليس عليه قضاء ومن استقى عمدا فليقضي." So if a person is overcome with vomit, like he throws up unintentionally, it just comes to you and you have to throw up, that will not break your fast. However, if you intentionally force yourself to throw up or vomit, that breaks your fast, and you have to make it up. Masturbation, if it leads to ejaculation, will break the fast. The Prophet ﷺ, said in the Hadith Qudsi about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, يَدَعَ شَهْوَةُ وَأَكْلَهُ وَشَرْبُهُ مِنْ أَجْلِي. So the Hadith says shahwatu, his desires. If a person does masturbation in the day of Ramadan, he's not leaving his desires basically, so he breaks his fast. Some scholars says that requires the ejaculation to break the fast. Some says just doing the act itself. If the Shafi'i and the Maliki actually say if a person does that act intentionally, he has the same thing as with sexual intercourse, the kafara, which means that he has to free a slave person, or fast 60 days continuously, or feed 60 poor people. So it's very severe, obviously, not to do that. And the Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith, even if you break your fast intentionally during the day of Ramadan, even if you were to fast the dahr, like the whole life, non-stop, you can never make up for it. So it's very grievous sin to break the fast in Ramadan. It's one of the most blessed times of the year, and we should try our best to be doing good deeds, not obviously, breaking the fast. The hijama is the cupping or the bloodletting. There's a hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, "Aftara al-hajim al-mahjum," that the person doing the hijama and the one that's getting the hijama done has broken their fasts. Some scholars say the interpretation, they say that was just like they don't have a complete fast because they're doing something that will lead to the weakness of the person, or there's a potential for breaking the fast, because in those days they'd use like the horns, to suck the blood, and sometimes blood might get in their mouth, so they'll break their fast. That's a literal explanation some people say. And other scholars say that hadith was abrogated by another hadith of Ibn Abbas, who was a younger Sahabi, which means it happened later in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. It said the Prophet ﷺ, he did the hijama while he was fasting, and it didn't break his fast. And that's a stronger opinion, that it doesn't break your fast, but if you can avoid it during that time, obviously it's better. You can wait till after Maghrib, or if you can wait till after Ramadan to do it, it's better, so you won't be in a dispute of the scholars. So these are the acts the scholars are basically, Imam Ibn Qudam rahimahullah says that breaks the fast according to him, with the differences we mentioned. In terms of kissing the spouse or touching the spouse and it leads to ejaculation, some scholars said if it was unintentional, it doesn't fall into that category. But if it was intentional, like he didn't take the precautions and he was doing it and it led to that, he breaks his fast and he has to make it up. Which when we go through this chapter, inshallah, you'll see that basically the Imam, he divides between intentional and unintentional acts. So in general, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he does not take the person into account if he does an act unintentionally, obviously, right? So the difference you see between throwing up by not your mean, or throwing up on purpose, right? Also, in terms of, for example, if a person has overcome by his thoughts, like sexual desires or something like that, he's not trying to think about it, but it just comes to him, and he has, for example, a type of ejaculation, that doesn't break his fast according to the majority of scholars, because of unintentional. And then he goes to the next part, if you do an act out of forgetfulness. when فعله ناسيا أو مكرها لم يفسد صومه. If he does it out of forgetfulness or being forced to do something, he does not invalidate his fast, right? So there's a hadith the Prophet ﷺ said that من نسيه صائم فأكل أو شرب فليتم صومه فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. That basically if a person is forgetting that he was fasting and he ate or drank something, he should continue his fast, for verily it is Allah who has given him food or drink, right? So say for example your normal schedule is you drink a certain time in the day, you go to the water fountain, you get a drink real quick, and then just you started fasting and you didn't pay attention, you went and you drank, and then you remembered, oh, I'm fasting, and you stop. It's okay, you can continue your fasting according to the majority of scholars. If you realize you're fasting and you continue to drink, then you've broken your fast. So that's the difference, intention versus non-intention. The acts that do not invalidate the fast: وإن طار إلى حلقه ذباب أو غبار أو تمضمض أو استنشق فوصل إلى حلقه ماء أو فكر فأنزل أو قطر في حنينه أو احتلم أو ذرعه القي لم يفسد صومه. So he says basically if there's like a fly, this is when the person has no control of something happening to him, and he break, it's usually if he did it intentionally it would break the fast, but unintentionally it won't break the fast. So he says if a fly comes into your mouth, or dust comes into your nose and you swallow it and it goes into your jawf by accident, like you couldn't help it, or if one rinses his mouth, does in the wudu, and some drops would get in his throat by accident, not on purpose, he's not taken into account. Also, if a person has a sexual discharge without, like if he was sleeping, for example, and it happened, or if he thought about something but he tried to get out of his mind, he wasn't trying to like stay there and think about it, and purposely have that happen, that's forgiven. If it goes, the drops they say through the vagina or through the urethra or suppositories and stuff like that, the scholars say that doesn't break the fast as well because it doesn't reach the stomach. Now we talk about the mistakes. So we started off, those things that invalidate the fast, that you do it intentionally, those things that you do it through compulsion, or if somebody forces you to do so, or something you have no control over, it happens to you, that doesn't break your fast. Now he's talking about what happens if you make a mistake. وَمَنْ أَكَلَ يظنه ليلا فبان نهارا فعليه القضاء. ومن أكل شاكا في طلوع الفجر لم يفسد صومه وإن أكل شاكا في غروب الشمس فعليه القضاء. So he makes a distinction. He says if one eats while thinking that it is night and it turns out to be day, he must make up the fast. If he eats because of doubt that the time of Fajr has arrived, like he wakes up in the nighttime and he eats something, he thinks it's not Fajr yet, and Fajr hasn't arrived, that's fine. He doesn't have to break his fast, obviously. His fasting is correct. But if he guesses wrongly, he finds out afterwards that it was Fajr time and he ate during the day, according to some scholars that he has to make up the fast. Also, if he guesses wrongly and he thinks that it's Maghrib and it's not Maghrib, according to the safer opinion is that he should make up the fast, even if it's a couple minutes before Maghrib. So always you have to try to build upon certainty and yaqeen, right? So you know when the day starts and when the day ends, and you try to stop before the day starts and you try to end it as soon as the day is finished. Some scholars they say that if a person has food or drink in his hand and he eats, he can and adhan comes, he can finish what he has in his hand. But the majority, or the safer opinion, like some scholars like Imam Nawawi and others, they explain it as saying that it's after the first adhan the Prophet ﷺ was talking about, not the second adhan. So if the second adhan comes, the time of the true Fajr, one should stop eating immediately. Even some of the Salaf, they had something in their mouth, they would spit it out, right? And then if you have, for example, had your suhoor and you try to clean your mouth out, but there's some remnants upon your teeth, you're not taking into account for that. Like that's forgiven, inshallah. Like if you just drank milk and there's like some milk film upon your teeth, it's almost impossible to get out, or there's some tiny particles that you can't really get out and you swallow them. It's not, you don't be taken into account for that, inshallah. But always try to end before the Fajr, and if you want to brush your teeth or whatever, so you have some time. So that's basically the summary of the things that break the fast, right?
How about like brushing your teeth during the day?
So the Prophet ﷺ, he would use the miswak throughout the day, even while he was fasting. So scholars say that's okay. In terms of toothpaste, there's like a difference of opinion. Some scholars say that as long as you don't swallow it, it's okay. Other scholars say, no, it's something that's with taste and substance, and if it goes down your throat, you break your fast. So it's better to stay away from it. If you can, ideally use the miswak, or just use a toothbrush without the toothpaste or something like that if you pass the time. If you want to follow the opinion, because there's an athar on Ibn Abbas, I believe, radiallahu anhu, that a woman can taste the food actually without swallowing it to make sure it's okay if she's cooking, or somebody. There's a narration. I don't know its authenticity. I have to go back and review, inshallah. But there's a athar or narration that says that somebody can, if they're cooking, they can taste the food just to make sure it's okay without swallowing it, though, and just to taste it in their mouth. So scholars say that toothpaste is the same thing. You're just tasting it. You're not really swallowing it. It's not for nutrition's sake, right? But the other scholars, they say no. The safer opinion and the stronger, according to them, is that you should abstain from any type of substance entering into the mouth, right? Even the Prophet ﷺ said, "Balighu fil istinshaqi illa an takuna sa'ima," that you should, exaggerate in taking the water into your nose, especially like in Fajr time and stuff like that, except if you are fasting. So scholars derive from that saying that even with the wudu, which is an ibadah, you're not supposed to take the chance of putting the water into your nose because you might swallow a couple of drops, and it's really minuscule, but it will break the fast according to some of the scholars. So they say, therefore, with other things that even have taste to it, or particles, don't take the chance. Wallahu alam. That's the chapter on the nullifiers of fasting. Is that okay? It's a summary. Like, you can go into great detail, obviously, but I'm just giving you the general picture, inshallah, so we can have an understanding of the basic of fiqh. The next chapter is Bab al-Siyam al-Tatawwa', which is the voluntary fasting, the extra fasting, right? And there's several types. There's some that are basically you can do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis, right? So some, hadith say the Prophet ﷺ would encourage fasting on the Mondays and the Thursdays of the week. And there's another narrations that the 3 days of the full moon during the month, right? And then we have Yom Ashura or Yom Arafat for the year, right? And the wisdom of doing tatawwa or extra fasting is that first and foremost it brings us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet لا يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل حتى أحبهم. That my servant will continue to draw closer to me, Allah is saying, with nawafil, with the extra, the voluntary good deeds, until I love him. And if I love him, I will be the sight with which he sees, the hearing with which he hears, the foot with which he walks, and the hand with which he stretches out. Meaning that basically he will protect you from listening or seeing or going forth to haram, and he will let you, encourage you and help you to do the good with all those gifts that he has given us, right? You become the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more of the voluntary deeds you do. The other hikmah is that it makes up for the deficiency in your ibadah, right? Because sometimes we're not doing the salah as we should be doing it correctly, so we do extra nawafil to make up for it. Our siyam might not be the best, for example, so we do extra siyam to make up for it. And of course it's a means of training yourself in doing extra good deeds to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so it's highly encouraged to do the nawafil throughout the year. أفضل الصيام صيام داود عليه السلام كان يصوم يوما ويفطر يوما. And he says, the Prophet ﷺ said that the best of fasting is the fast of the Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. He used to fast one day and break his fast the next day. So basically like half the year. Some scholars say, that was in the Sharia before us, but either if a person is able to do so, that's the best fast the Prophet ﷺ is saying that a person can do. Amr ibn As, he asked him, I wanted to fast, and the Prophet ﷺ said you should fast 3 days of the month, and he said I can do more, and he said 7, and then he said I can do more, and he went, and then he finally said 1 day on and 1 day off, and he said I can do more, and he said that's the best fast, basically you can't do more than that. And Amr ibn As, he regretted, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As, I believe, he regretted doing it, because when he became older he was weakened and he wasn't able to do like the ibadah, but because he started something he continued with it, so he kept doing it even throughout the old age. But he said, I wish I took the advice of the Prophet ﷺ and do just the 3 days of the month. You have a question?
Aren't there like specific days that are forbidden to fast?
Yeah, there's some days they're not. So some days that are forbidden in terms of like the 2 Eids. That's a strong prohibition to fast on the days of Eid. And some scholars, they say, based on certain ahadith, that it's disliked to single out Saturdays or single out Fridays, right? So if you're going to do Friday, you should do a day before or a day after, and the Saturdays likewise. But in general, voluntary fast is if it falls on the days that are like preferred, like we said, the 3 days of the full moon, or the day that like Arafah or the day of Ashura, it's okay to do it those days, inshallah. وأفضل الصيام بعد شهر رمضان شهر الله الذي يدعونه المحرم. And the best of fast after the month of Ramadan is the month of Muharram. وما من أيام العمل الصالح فيهن أحب إلى الله من عشر ذي الحجة. And there are no days in which righteous deeds are more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Right? The scholars, they debate, what are the best 10 days of the year, and to make a short summary, basically, the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah are the best 10 days of the year, and Dhul Hijjah itself, the day of Eid al-Adha, and Yawm al-Nahr, that's the best day of the year, right? And then the other scholars, they say that the best nights of the year are the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and Laylatul Qadr is the best night of the year, right? It's better than 1,000 months. Muharram, also the Prophet ﷺ used to fast a lot in this month that we're in right now, Sha'ban, right? The Prophet ﷺ, Aisha used to say that he didn't fast more. She didn't see him fasting more than he did in this month, and the other Sahaba said the same thing. ومن صام رمضان واتبعه بست من شوال فكأنما صام الدهر كله. And whoever fasts Ramadan and follows it with 6 days of Shawwal, it's as if he fasted the whole year, right? Because if you take it 30 days of Ramadan, and each deed is done multiplied by 10, that's 300 days, and then 6 times 10 is 360 days, so it's like you fasted the whole year. Some scholars like the Maliki and I think the Hanafiya dislike the 6 days, and it's a long argument, but the Sunnah is like basically thabit, that the hadith says you can follow Ramadan with 6 days of Shawwal, and inshallah it'll be like fasting the whole year. وصيام يوم عاشوراء كفارة السنة وصيام يوم عرفة كفارة سنتين ولا يستحب لمن بعرفة إذا كان في الحج أن يصومه. In basically fasting the day of Ashura is like the expiation of a sin for a whole year, and the fasting the day of Arafah is like the expiation of a sin for 2 years, the year before and the year after. And except it's disliked for the one who is at Arafat to fast, because it's encouraged for him to be strong for the ibadah. But in general, for the other Muslims that are not on Hajj, it's highly encouraged to fast that day. And the expiation of sins obviously is for, most scholars say, the minor sins. The major sins require tawbah. والصائم والصائم المتطوع أمير نفسه إن شاء صام وإن شاء أفطر ولا قضاء عليه. And the one who's doing voluntary fast, he's the Amir of himself. Basically, he's in charge of himself. If he wants to continue fasting, he should do so. And if he wants to break his fast, he's allowed to do so, and he doesn't have to make it up. لا قضاء عليه. This is the opinion of Imam Ahmad and the Hanabila. Imam Malik, or the Maliki in general, they say if you start an ibadah, you have to finish it. ولا تبطلوا أعمالكم. Do not negate your good deeds, right? And then Allah says, وَأَتِمُّوا الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ, and complete the Hajj and Umrah for Allah. If you start with the Hajj, you have to finish it. Even if you mess up on it, you have to complete the Hajj and come back and do it the next year, right? So there's some scholars, they say that if you start even a nafila, you have to finish it. Wallahu alam, it's it's encouraged, highly encouraged at least, that if you start something you can finish it. But like he says, after the fara'id, the sunan, except some Hajj and Umrah, the scholars dispute, pretty much are agreement that you have to complete those. But the other ibadat, if it's a tatawwa, extra, you don't have to make it up. وكذلك سائر التطوع إلا الحج والعمرة فإنه يجب إتمامهما وقضاء ما أفسد منهما. So he said, likewise, all other voluntary deeds, except, like we said, Hajj or Umrah, these two must be completed, and when they are invalidated, it is mandatory to make it up. So there's an exemption because the ayah is specific. وَأَتِمُّوا الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ. Like complete the Hajj and Umrah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to do so. And the Maliki, like I said, they do it generally for nawafil. لَا تُبْطِلُوا أَعْمَالَكُمْ. So if you stop for some reason, they say that you should make it up, as not to negate your deeds. ونهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن صوم يومين، يوم الفطر ويوم الأضحى، ونهى عن صوم أيام التشريق، إلا أنه رخص في صومها للمتمتع إذا لم يجد الهدي. The Messenger of Allah subhanahu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he forbade the fasting upon the 2 days, like we said, the 2 Eids, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, and he disliked the fasting on the days of Tashriq, the 10 days after, 3 days after Eid, except for the one who is doing Hajj Tamatta'a, and he's unable to do the sacrifice, so he's allowed to fast during those 3 days, the exemption. But in general, the Prophet ﷺ said, these are the days of feasting, eating and drinking, and having a nice time, so we should eat and enjoy those times, those days after Eid. وليلة القدر في الوتر من عشر الأواخر من رمضان, and the night of power is the last one of the last 10 even odd nights of Ramadan. One of the last 10 odd nights of Ramadan. So either the 21st, the 23rd, 25th, 27th, or 29th, right? Many scholars, they say that 27th is the strongest one. Some say the 25th. But anyways, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, seek it out in the last 10 nights. So the Imam is mentioning it here because it's befitting to do the extra salat and the extra good deeds and extra citation of the Quran those last 10 days of Ramadan, so you can try to hit that month. So it's worth 1,000 months, right? 83 years basically. So imagine if you're praying that night, it's like you're praying the 83 years straight, or if you're giving sadaqah, or if you're reading the Quran. So the scholars are very keen on mentioning this so that we can try to take advantage of Laylatul Qadr when it comes. Then he goes to the chapter 4, Bab al-I'tikaf. All these are relating to the Kitab al-Siyam. This is the final chapter in the Kitab al-Siyam. And this is basically the devotional retreat for the Muslims. It's like the halal, kind of like being a monk for 10 days, basically. Like you cut yourself off from the dunya and you make luzum to the masjid. That basically you settle yourself in the masjid for those last 10 days. And you don't go out except for like extreme necessities, right? وهو لزوم المسجد لطاعة الله تعالى فيه وهو سنة إلا أن يكون نذرا فليلزم الوفاء به. And he said this means abiding or staying in the masjid for the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a sunnah. The Prophet used to do it every year, except the last year of his life he stayed 20 days in the masjid, right? But the sunnah is to do 10 days for itikaf for us. Unless it's a vow, a nadhr, means that you take an oath to do a certain act, then it becomes obligatory upon you to fulfill that oath. If you made an oath to stay in the masjid for a certain amount of time, you have to fulfill that oath. The Prophet ﷺ, he told the people, the Sahaba, if they made an oath to fulfill it, right?
Will this be like an oath between you and Allah?
Yeah, like you say, like there's two types of nadhr. So some that's preferred, the good nadhr is when you do it's like Allah says, yufuna bi nadrihim wa yakhafuna yawman kana sharruhu mustatira. That they honor he's describing the believers that they honor their nadhr. This is nadhr, you say that I will pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 2 rakats, or I'll fast these days, or I'll give this charity, without asking for muqabil, without asking for something in return. That's the praise nadhr. That's one that's good to do. Like you can do it on yourself. I want to make itikaf. I promise to Allah I will make itikaf. The one that's not encouraged or liked is when you ask for muqabala. So you say like, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me, if I get an A on this test, then I will fast 5 days. Or if I get, $100, I will do that. Some scholars, they dislike that type of nadhr, right? Because it's like you're, trying to make it bargaining with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of the deal. But you should do the ibadah because Allah, He deserves the ibadah regardless, right? And some scholars, they dislike nadhr in general, because you're making something obligatory upon yourself that is not obligatory, and then if you die beforehand, it becomes like a debt upon you. So either do it like right away, or you're going to be able to do it, or refrain. ويصح من المرأة في كل مسجد غير مسجد بيتها, and it's valid for the woman in every masjid except for her own house, because in general the woman, if she prays at home, it's considered she gets reward like she's praying in the masjid, right? And even if she prays like in the rooms, she's like her masjid, she gets the reward like praying in the jama'ah, because she's has duties in the house and she has to take care of the home most of the time, a lot of the times. So she gets the extra reward. She doesn't have to go to the jama'ah like the men do. So it's permissible for her to make itikaf as well in any masjid, right? ولا يصح من الرجل إلا في مسجد تقام فيه الجمعة واعتكافه في مسجد تقام فيه الجمعة أفضل. أو الجماعة, it's like تقام فيه الجماعة وإن كان قام فيه الجمعة فهو أفضل. Basically, for the women, he's saying, distinguishing that she can pray in any masjid. Like it doesn't have to be the masjid of Jamia. It doesn't have to be the masjid, the big masjid of the city at that time. It doesn't have to be the masjid that has Jumu'ah in it, because her masjid is simple, like the house, so she can be like in any of these type of masajid. For the men, he said, though, it has to be in the masjid that they have the obligatory prayers prayed there, and preferably they do the Jumu'ah there as well. Some scholars, or most scholars, they say like the musalla, like these things that are just like temporary mosques, they're not always, not all the 5 prayers are prayed there. They don't have khutbah there sometimes. These type of things, they don't count. You cannot make itikaf. It has to be a masjid. ومن نذر الاعتكاف أو صلاة في مسجد فعله ذلك في غيره إلا المساجد الثلاثة. If somebody makes a vow to make itikaf in a particular masjid, he can do so in different masjid. So he's saying that you can do it like in any masjid, basically, if you make a vow to make itikaf, except in 3 masajid, which is the Mecca, Medina, and Quds, Jerusalem. If you make a vow, you have to do it there. Some scholars, they make the exemption, saying that you could do, if you made the vow for the lesser one, you could do it in the higher one. So if you did like a vow to go pray in Quds, you could do the itikaf in Medina, or the itikaf in Mecca, and it would cover for that, but not vice versa. وإن نذر الاعتكاف في مسجد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم جاز له أن يعتكف في مسجد الحرام، وإن نذر أن يعتكف في مسجد الأقصى فعله في أيهما أحب. Like I just said, basically if he made the nether to pray, to make the etikaf in the Prophet's mosque, he can do so, or he can do it in Masjid al-Haram, because it's more reward than the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. And if he did it for Quds, he could do it in Medina or in Mecca. ويستحب للمعتكف الاشتغال بفعل القرب الأعمال الصالحة واجتناب ما لا يعنيه من قول وفعل ولا يبطل الاعتكاف بشيء من ذلك. And it's preferred for the person that he keeps himself occupied with worship. That's your point. Like you're kind of cutting off from the dunya, so you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you should be reading the Quran, doing extra nawafil, salat, reading books of knowledge, remember doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not engaging in vain talk or frivolous talk, or wasting your time sleeping the whole time. Some people just make it a big slumber party. That's not the purpose. It's like you're basically coming there to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and cut yourself off so you can focus on the dhikr. And do not negate your itikaf with these type of acts. Basically, he's saying, ولا يخرج من المسجد إلا لما لا بد له منه إلا أن يشترط ولا يباشر امرأة. He should not leave the masjid except for necessity or need, unless he makes a condition upon himself, and he must not touch a woman with desire while he's doing the itikaf. So basically, in general, you're not supposed to leave except for necessity. Necessity could be using the bathroom, getting food if nobody can bring it to you, for example. But it's preferred if somebody can bring it to you. And here, alhamdulillah, they have food here. Some scholars say to take care of your family member or visit a sick person, and some scholars are very strict that saying that you can't leave except for extreme necessity. Even janazah, going outside for janazah, they say you shouldn't do so. So it depends on which opinion you follow. The better is to try to stay put in the masjid, except for necessity. And he says, according to Ibn Qudama, you can do ishtirat, which means that I make itikaf in this masjid except for such and such and such and such. So I have to work from this time to this time, so I'll make itikaf from this time to this time, except when I have to work. Some scholars, they validate that, and other scholars say no, it has to be the 10 days, or days continuously, or forget it, to make itikaf. Because it's like luzum, it's basically like you're residing in the masjid, or keeping yourself tied down to the masjid, right? Not to be distracted by worldly gains. Also, you're not supposed to touch the woman. Like if you have your wife, you're both making itikaf, you shouldn't have relations. Allah says, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ, that you should not have, touch, intimacy with her basically while you're doing itikaf in the masjid. Like we said, this is a time of ibadah and worship and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reading the Quran. And when you finish Ramadan, inshallah, you can go back to having those type of close relations. وإن سأل عن المريض في طريقه أو عن غيره ولم يعرج إليه جاز. If he asks on his way about a patient or someone else without visiting him, it is permissible. So basically, say he needs to use the restroom or get some food, and while he's going to do that necessity, he asks somebody, is such and such person okay? But he should not visit that person, like he's saying. So even the visiting the sick was a highly encouraged form of worship. Even that, the Imam is saying you shouldn't do that if you're in a state of itikaf, because this is a specific type of worship that you're putting yourself seclusion in the masjid for that time. And alhamdulillah, we finished Kitab al-Siyam before Ramadan, alhamdulillah. Yeah. And you guys should go back and study it some more, inshallah, and learn the finer details. But that's the outline of Kitab al-Siyam and the basics. So if you have any questions, we have a couple minutes before Salah.
You said to do something 6 days after the day of Ramadan. What was it?
So after you do Ramadan, you follow it with 6 days of fasting in Shawwal. Some scholars say it should be 6 days consecutively, but the stronger opinion, Wallahu A'lam, is that you can do it any 6 days. So you can do Monday and Thursdays, 3 weeks in a row, or Monday, and then Thursday, something equals 6 in Shawwal, and it says the reward of fasting the whole year. This is a great reward, according to scholars. Like I said, the Maliki and I think the Hanafiya disliked it for other reasons, because they were, afraid that people connected to Ramadan and make it a long, you're not supposed to fast on the Eid and stuff like that, or make it a part of Ramadan, so they feared that they forbid some of the people from doing it. But the hadith is authentic, and afterwards I think the fear of that is gone. So, Allahu A'lam.
you shouldn't sit before you pray those two. That confuses me a lot.
Yeah, if it's just 1 minute, you can probably wait. If you think you can finish the 2 rak'ahs in 1 minute, or before the imam starts the salat, then you can go ahead and finish it.
Would I like just stay standing or would I sit down?
Um, if you're, it's better to just to stay standing so you won't have to fall into the the Prophet ﷺ said that none of you should sit down till you pray 2 rak'ahs. So if it's like a couple minutes, you can just stay standing. If you have enough time to sit down, that means you have enough time basically to do the 2 rak'ahs probably. But if it's just like a minute or less or something like that, you can stand. The time of nahi, you should wait regardless. Like after Asr, or especially like when it's close to the sun setting, like 10 minutes before Maghrib, or after Fajr, these type of things, you should remain. You shouldn't pray at those times. So that's different. You can, some scholars say you can sit down while you wait.
I think I've heard a hadith that you should. The Prophet ﷺ forbade like people standing and waiting for the imam if he wasn't like present.
I don't know about the hadith, but it's like considered of the improper adab. But like say sometimes here it happens like the time for salat comes and the imam's not there and everybody stands up to like pray, let's go. So it's not considered proper adab. Like they should sit until the imam arrives. But it's different than that you just arrived and it's about to be the iqamah and you might not have enough time to pray the 2 rak'ahs or not. So you don't want to have like distractions in your mind to be rushed or something like that. But if you have like a couple minutes and you can do 2 rak'ahs, it's okay. Go ahead and finish it and then join the imam. Wallahu a'lam. يا الله سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاكم الله خير inshallah. You guys have a blessed Ramadan and may Allah accept from us our good deeds, fasting and prayers. جزاكم الله خير.